Welcome into a new edition of the Cardinal Authority Podcast, and I think we've got a great podcast on tap for you guys today. Three wonderful, just loaded with information segments getting ready to come at you first. Up first, the first segment will be myself and Cardinal Authority publisher Jody Demling. We're going to be going over a lot of the headlines that are kind of off the field, off the court, if you will. So we're going to touch base on a lot of those, as well as we'll get into some Cardinal basketball as they get prepared to face Wake Forest on Saturday. Segment number 2, stepping in from Baseball America, because yes, believe it or not, we're less than 4 weeks away from the start of the college baseball season. Dan McDonald's team, another top 25 program in every single one of the preseason polls. From Baseball America, Michael Lananna is stepping into the Cardinal Authority podcast to give us his thoughts on college baseball, the ACC, what to expect from the Cardinals this season. And then in the last segment, we're going to touch base on Louisville Wake Forest, that game on Saturday night out at the KFC Yum Center, as Deacon digest the Wake Forest presence on 247 Sports Network. Les Johns is going to step into the podcast and give us a kind of lowdown on what to expect from Danny Manning's Wake Forest squad. So sit back, get a nice beverage, put your headphones on, shut your office door, do whatever you need to do. Go for a ride around the car, plug in, hook up on your Bluetooth, do whatever you want to do, because this is going to be about nearly 30 minutes of a great Cardinal Authority podcast. Cardinal Authority podcast, senior writer Michael McCammon, joined by publisher Jody Demling here. Jody, a lot to talk about. I know we're in the meat of the basketball season, but a lot of stuff off the court, off the field, so to speak, also drawing the headlines and probably the things we need to talk about. You know, we're anxiously, I don't know if that's the right word, I don't think anybody really wants to get this, but hopefully we can get the NCAA stuff, the word from the NCAA on U of L's appeal behind us soon. You know, obviously had some speculation come out yesterday from a radio host up in Indianapolis. What's the latest from your side of things?
Well, I think people do. I mean, talking to people around U of L, I think, they want it to be over with soon. They wanted to get past it and move on. I don't know if it's going to be soon. I thought it would be last week. I honestly did.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Will it be Friday? I doubt it. As of Thursday afternoon, Louisville still hadn't heard. I guess it could still be, but if we're not hearing anything at all, then I can't imagine that it will. But we'll see. And the other thing is Dan Dockage right? We don't even know that, because
sure.
The thing about it is, Michael, is I've heard, I think he could be right on, they lose the appeal, but we've heard the monetary value that we have heard is so much smaller than what he said of $15 million that I can't even fathom where that would be right, as far as what we have been hearing. Now, he said he heard it from somebody in the room. What does that mean? We don't know. Vince Tyree is adamant that, the NCAA has not told them anything as of this afternoon, and we'll just have to wait and see. But, I think people want to move on and want to get it over with.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, and you kind of pointed out the fact that because of what Dockage said, he's kind of prepared the Louisville faithful, for the worst. So anything less than that, will feel a little bit better than potentially that, But again, going by what he said, he even gave himself an out saying, look, I could be wrong. And the timing of it starts to put it in the realm of, maybe he wasn't accurate, because if he was, according to his person, in the room, then things should start to be trickling out, and we would certainly probably hear something tomorrow. So going to be interesting to see, obviously, when it does officially come.
Yeah, and again, he gave himself an out, but he also said that I'm not into breaking news, that kind of thing. So we'll see. I don't know what to look. I know Louisville is positive that they made a very good presentation to the NCAA. It's the new regime, and they were pretty positive about the, what they presented to the NCAA, and so we'll just have to wait and see how that goes.
Yep. Some other headlines. Obviously, Bobby Petrino looking to fill a couple vacancies on his staff. I know a lot of his staff that are still part of the group are out visiting high schools and recruits. Bobby Petrino's doing a little recruiting of a different type.
Yeah, he is actually out. I can confirm that he has been on the road this week recruiting for a defensive coordinator. He's talked to some. You know, I know Nick Holt, Vic Koenig, Scott Schaefer. Those names were thrown out early. I am almost dead set positive that it won't be Nick Holt or Vic Koenig. Vic Koenig is the former defensive coordinator at North Carolina, who is at Troy right now. Almost virtually possible or virtually 100% positive it won't be either one of those guys. I think Bobby Petrino has talked to them and kind of moved on. We'll see. Could it be Scott Schaefer, or will it be somebody that we haven't heard of at this point? I think it could be. There's a lot of names out there, and it'll be interesting, Michael, see who he gets.
And of course, Court Dennison now, I don't think it's officially been announced yet by Oregon, but the details of his contract out there. So that's obviously another area that they're going to have to fill. And, Bobby Petrino's done a great job bringing some of these younger guys up. Court Dennison was just a grad assistant in 2014. Look at him now. Latest, the 10th assistant in Ryan Beard, already hearing great things, what he can do on the recruiting trail. And Bobby Petrino very high on his ability to coach guys up as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fills that additional vacancy on the staff as well.
Yeah, the defensive coordinator is the most important. You
Sure.
get that done first, because that guy probably will want to bring someone with him, I would imagine. When Peter Sirmon came last year, he didn't have a whole lot of his own guys to bring along. He brought a couple of defensive quality control guys. So there's a couple of those spots that are open that those guys that have left as well. So, it'll be interesting to see. I think, I think we'll find out something over the weekend or early next week as far as a coordinator is concerned.
Now, there is a lot of actual football recruiting going on. As I mentioned, a lot of the staff out visiting high schools, extending offers, hearing great things from both in-state as well as out-of-state. They're getting busy in the Bluegrass, in the Sunshine State, two real key areas for the staff looking into the 2019 class. Also going to be hosting some junior days coming up, and then they've got a couple spots to fill in 2018. So those guys are keeping them really busy as well.
Yeah, Javion Hawkins will be number 21. Kobe Smith we visited him last night. He'll sign on February 7th. He'll be number 21 in the class. 22, I still think is going to end up being the Marlon Character. Marlon's not a character. That's actually his last name, Marlon Character. I think it'll be him. He was at Auburn and then left. Was a long-time South Carolina commitment. He's the number 18 JUCO prospect in the country as a safety. He would come in and immediately probably give you three guys in P.J. Ambassador, Rajay Burns, and then Character, who've all played, at the Division I level, high at the Division I level in Oklahoma and Ohio State with Burns, Oklahoma with Ambassador, and then Character, at Auburn. So, I mean, you're talking about three guys that have played at a high level. If you can get him as number 22, and then number 23, I still think it's going to be a lineman. Willie Canty will visit this week. And, don't sleep on the possibility that Willie Canty and Stephen Field have a pretty good relationship. And Stephen Field, very, very instrumental in getting this Louisville class together that's been so far. It's so Florida heavy, and he's been kind of the guy to do that with Court Dennison. Now, Court Dennison's gone, but Stephen Field's going to keep Louisville strong in the state of Florida.
Yeah, and you wrap up with those two, and then including Javion, those three, and you're looking at the Louisville class. It's right there on the cusp of the top 25 in the 247 sports rankings, and very well could end up with, if you add those three, in the top 25 when all is said and done following the National Signing Day, which is rapidly approaching that first week in February. I guess we got about a minute. Go ahead.
It's so weird. It's so weird not to have a whole lot of football recruiting this time of the year, but it's also nice for them because they're getting a good start on 2019 and 2020. And while we got just a minute or so left to talk about basketball, look, last night, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Yeah, they could have won the basketball game. They probably should have won the basketball game, and they would have if they'd have hit free throws.
Yep.
A couple of bad plays down the stretch that I think they just have to overcome. But it doesn't, look, I went into the game thinking that they were probably going to lose that just because games on the road, they're hard to get if you can steal one. Now Louisville just has to. I think 6 of their next 7 games are on the road or are at home. 5 of their next 7 games are at home. The 2 that are on the road is that root canal game next week at Virginia and then at Pittsburgh. So if you can get the win at Pittsburgh and keep your home court advantage, you're sitting very, very good going into the stretch of the last 7 or 8 games of the season, and the team's going to get better. They're going to get a lot better, and they're going to continue to work and do the things that David wants them to do. And look, it's I don't know. I don't know what I expected. I really don't. I don't know what I expected going in, but at this point, you got to be, as a Louisville fan, you got to be happy with the progress that you see with everything that's gone on since September 26th.
Yeah, without question. And obviously this Saturday night at the KFC Yum Center, trying to bounce back from that loss against Miami, welcoming in Wake Forest, who's currently having their own struggles, but they've been kind of going through the meat grinder portion of their schedule, just 1-7 in the ACC. But they've played Virginia, they played Duke twice, they played North Carolina. So
Duke
they've
twice
already,
in 10 days, by the way, twice in 10 days.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
ACC.
they've gone through that schedule that Louisville is still, staring at, that's coming up later on in their schedule. So, they're looking to start racking up some wins. Louisville's trying to bounce back, especially knowing that difficult portion of their schedule is coming back. So this is a big game, and both teams are going to come out, swinging for the win. I like Louisville in this, in a close one, again, on a Saturday night at the KFC Yum Center, but I think it's going to be a lot tighter than some people may think.
Yeah, no, I do too. And remember, Brian Crawford's a guy who wanted to come to Louisville. Brian Crawford was a Kenny Johnson recruit, was all in on Louisville. Rick Pitino didn't like him when he went to see him. And so since then, Brian Crawford's always had he kind of had it out for Louisville once a big game. He's played well against them, and he's their best player.
And we'll get some more insight on Wake Forest. We're going to have Deacon Digest publisher Les Johns on later on in the podcast. Coming up next, we're actually going to talk a little college baseball from Baseball America. Michael Lananna will be joining us to talk about the start of college baseball season, which, Jody, that's right around the corner.
Tomorrow or today, whenever we post this, Friday afternoon is the first practice. How about that?
Yeah, first scrimmage out of Patterson Stadium, and open to the public. So if you got nothing else to do, and it's supposed to be a little bit warmer tomorrow, go on out to the ballpark. But again, Jody, great stuff as always, and keep clicking on Cardinal Authorities. We're going to have coverage of junior days, obviously covering the defensive coordinator search, and so much more right here at CardinalAuthority.com. Joining us now here in the Cardinal Authority podcast today from Baseball America, Michael Lananna touching base with us. And Michael, great to have you joining us here. To me, here we are, in February, I guess into the third week of February, and it always amazes me when about this time of year when I look at the calendar and I'm like, third week of January, and I look at the calendar and I'm like, wow, college baseball is just about to start.
Yeah, no, it amazes me too, especially our office is in Durham in North Carolina. We were just buried in 8 to 10 inches of snow, so it's kind of crazy to be talking to college coaches and writing about college baseball when you can't even get out of your own house because you snowed in. But I'm excited. We're all excited at Baseball America. We love this time of year, obviously, for many reasons, and it should be another great year.
Now, to get things really going, I guess, you get all the preseason hype and the talk of the newcomers, and you're looking at recruiting classes, and everybody's trying to figure out what their teams are going to look like this year. And one of those ways they get a nice gauge on how things might look for them this year is through the top 25 rankings that you guys do there at Baseball America. You guys currently have Louisville 19 in your preseason poll. What stands out, I guess, for Dan McDonald and his squad that gives you guys a good feeling that's where they should begin the year?
Yeah, well, Louisville was one of those teams. It was tough to place them in our 25 just because obviously you look at what they've done over the last few years, coming off a year in Omaha. There's a lot to like with that, but then you look at everything that they lost, and there's no question that they lost a ton of talent to the draft. Starting with Brendan McKay, it's one of the best players ever in college baseball. You could make the case, and that'd be a tough loss for anybody. But the thing for us, looking at Louisville's roster, even though they lost all of those guys, there's still a lot of talent there. And, there's a lot of faith, too, in Dan McDonald and that coaching staff that they're going to be able to find the right roles for all these guys. And, it's probably going to be a different kind of year than Louisville fans are used to over the last few years. They've probably been a little bit spoiled with all the talent the last few years. But, I think once this team kind of figures out the right roles for all these players, especially on the pitching side, because the rotation is going to look a lot different, then I think this Louisville team is going to be right where fans are used to seeing them.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point again, and starting with Brendan McKay, that, this is a team that did lose a lot. And in my discussions, with some of the guys on the coaching staff and others that are really close to the program, the question kind of during the off season is, how good is this Louisville team going to be? Because nobody really knows. As you mentioned, lost a lot. It's been well documented. So now it's one of those, okay, it's time to reload. They've had great recruiting classes the last few years, bringing in some excellent talent. But as you know, having a great recruiting class on paper is completely different from the guys performing on the field. And we saw some of the guys starting to make, a name for themselves last year, and a couple guys like Josh Stowers, Devin Mann the last couple of years. But now it's time for especially those kind of guys to really take that next step up and fill that role that the guys had that are now off playing pro ball.
Right. And, and that's something that Louisville has done a really good job of the last 2 years is, they take the guys that are maybe role players 1 year or play sparingly, they get them as much experience as possible when they're freshmen and sophomores and underclassmen. And then when it's time for them to step up, we've seen time and time again, I think the prime example is Drew Ellis last year, coming from, he was batting in the bottom of the order the year before and playing all around the diamond. And last year he established himself as the third baseman, hits in the middle of the order, hits 20 home runs, and then goes pretty high in the draft. I think, for Louisville to be successful again this year, not to say it's easier said than done, but they need guys, like you mentioned, Josh Stowers and Devin Mann, to have a similar kind of trajectory and to make a similar kind of jump as a guy like Drew Ellis and, Blake DeBerry and guys like that in the past have made. And I have a lot of faith in those guys that they're going to be able to do that. Devin Mann in particular has shown flashes of it. His freshman season when Nick Solak went down, he stepped in and really did a good job in filling that void for them. And, last year wasn't quite as good as his freshman year, but certainly the talent is there. I think he's a guy that, could hit 300 and hit in the middle of the order for them. And then Josh Stowers, I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about him. He's one of those guys. It's amazing how Louisville can kind of hide some of these guys because of all the talent at the front end of the lineup. But now he's the man, after batting in the bottom of the order last year. And I was impressed with him, seeing him late in the season. It seemed like he really came on strong, and he had a nice showing in Omaha as well. And I think he's the kind of guy who, kind of similar to Corey Ray, kind of how he exploded, his sophomore and junior year. I think Josh Stowers can have a similar type of explosion just looking at his skill set. He's a good mix of power and speed in center field, great athlete, a guy who has a lot of tools, and a guy who I think could surprise a lot of people in the country this year and could, potentially move up these prospect rankings depending on the kind of year that he has. And they need him to have a big year. There's no question about that. I think the offense is really going to run through him and what he's able to accomplish this year.
Yeah, you mentioned Corey Ray. I mean, that's kind of, one of his mentors, one of those guys that he really looks up to, both Chicago area type kids. And, and in talking to him, as you mentioned, had a really great end of the year last year, and talking to him during fall ball and during the off season, he's also really doing a really nice job stepping into that leadership role as well. Again, we're chatting here with Michael Lananna from Baseball America on the Cardinal Authority podcast as we get you geared up for the start of the college baseball season, which seems crazy that it's rapidly coming. But Michael, you mentioned that the Louisville the Louisville pitching rotation is going to look significantly different, and it is. Obviously, again, with Brendan gone off to the pros and others now gone off of that mound, they've got a guy coming back, and Sam Bordner, who, they're still trying to figure out exactly what their role is with him, and he's a guy getting preseason accolades, but they're going to have to rely on some newcomers as well. They got a nice JUCO coming in, Liam Jenkins, and then I know that you're familiar with this guy. A lot of people are coming out of the high school ranks. Reed Detmer is a guy that thought about going pro, but decided kind of like Brendan McKay did, I'm going to go ahead and give the college run a try. And he's a guy that I know that Roger Williams, the pitching coach there, and Dan McDonald both have high expectations for this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a guy who turned down a lot of money, like you mentioned, to come to school, and he should have an immediate impact. I mean, he's a guy who, as a freshman has the polish and really already has the pitching feel to be able to step into that rotation, kind of like Brendan McKay did his freshman year and make an immediate impact. He's actually my pick for freshman of the year. Our crystal ball predictions are going to be in our college preview issue of Baseball America, and he's my pick just given the opportunity that he's going to have and the polish that he has. I mean, he's not a guy, he's not a flamethrower. He's not going to come out of there, touching 95, 96, but he pounds the strike zone, has a good mix, and really a guy that pitches beyond his years, and a guy that you really are excited about if you're Dan McDonnell and Roger Williams to be able to plug into your rotation. Beyond him, they are going to have to figure some things out, but they do have a lot of options. And just talking with Coach McDonnell recently, I know he's excited about some of the potential that a few of these guys have. I know they're expecting big things from Adam Wolf this year, who's pitched out of the bullpen for them in the past couple of years, but I've been impressed in my looks at him. He's a 6'6" lefty. He's got great angle. He knows what he's doing on the mound. He hasn't started before, but he's a guy who, he has the repertoire to go through a lineup a couple of times. So he's a guy who he's not going to be fazed by, taking on that role, and, certainly going to be someone who could surprise some people. And then of course you have Bennett at the back end who has the experience from last year, Nick Bennett, and pitched in Omaha last year. And, you have to at least feel comfortable with the one returner in your rotation. And, I know Dan McDonnell was talking a little bit about Shea Smitty, a sophomore who had a really good fall, and they have a bunch of other candidates too. Brian Hoeing, if he stays healthy, could potentially go in there, and you mentioned Liam Jenkins as well. So they have a wealth of options. It's just a matter of figuring out who are the best guys for the certain spots in the rotation and on the pitching staff.
It kind of rings back to that question that's bouncing around the program right now. They're going to be good. It's just how good. I know we got to let you go, but one final question for you. You're there in Durham after one season at Louisville Slugger Field. The ACC Championship is moving back to Durham, where it's basically kind of been its home, back to the Durham Bulls Athletic Park there. ACC always considered, one of the elite baseball conferences in college baseball. What's your thoughts on how the ACC is looking so far in 2018?
Yeah, well, it's going to be another great year for the conference. I don't think there's any question about that. The team to beat, everyone agrees on, is Florida State, just given everything that they're returning from an Omaha team last year. They bring back their entire weekend rotation. Tyler Holton, a two-way player, kind of like a Brennan McKay, although not quite as proficient at both, but he's one of the better college baseball pitchers in the country, and a guy that you have a lot of faith in and leading that rotation. And they have, a lot of big bats, and especially Drew Mendoza, sophomore, who had 10 home runs, even playing just half a year last year. So they're going to be really good. North Carolina is going to be really good. They have a ton of pitching depth. They're really, really deep on the mound. And, they have some offensive guys who, if they take the necessary steps forward, should be a dangerous lineup as well. And then, Virginia is always good. They're going to be good yet again. Clemson has such a scary lineup with bringing back Seth Beer and Chris Williams and Logan Davidson and a couple of JUCO transfers that they brought in. They're going to have to figure it out on the mound. Similar to Louisville, I mean, they lost their entire weekend rotation, so they're going to have to figure things out. But they're going to be a very scary lineup to pitch to. And then you look at a team like Wake Forest, who was a win away from going to Omaha last year. They lose a little bit, but still a lot of talent there and a great coaching staff there. Duke has been getting a lot of buzz. Not a traditional ACC power in baseball, but they have two hitters who've made a lot of noise this summer, in Griffin Conine, the son of Brett Conine, and Jimmy Herron, and they have a chance to make some noise, and NC State is always kind of right in the mix too. So it's going to be another very deep year for the ACC. Certainly, it's not going to be as easy as Louisville has made it look the last few years, but given the talent that they have, and obviously just the great leadership they have at the helm there, and McDonnell and Roger Williams and all those guys, I think the Cardinals are going to be right in the mix there at the end of the year.
And again, the Cardinals get things going the weekend, February 16th through 18th, up in Charleston, South Carolina. They're in a kind of a round-robin type event up there that's hosted by the Citadel and George Mason. Richmond going to be there as well. So things are gearing up pretty quickly. Michael, appreciate you joining us here on the Cardinal Authority podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Can't wait to get out to the baseball field.
Look forward to seeing you at the ballpark as well. And again, that's Michael Lananna from Baseball America here on Cardinal Authority. Excited for our next guest that's stepping in here into the Cardinal Authority podcast from Deacon Digest. Publisher Les Johns joining us here. Louisville and Wake Forest tangling this weekend at the KFC Yum Center. Les, I know you're hoping to make the trip over to the Derby City for this game.
kind of a tough stretch right now for Wake Forest. Real quick to start things off, what's going on with the Demon Deacon team? Obviously, starting off 1-7 in ACC play.
Yeah, it's been a tough stretch. Thanks for having me on, Michael. Appreciate it. Looking forward to Kentucky native. Looking forward to making the trip to Louisville this weekend. But yeah, it's been an incredibly tough stretch for the Deeks. There's a couple things. One, it's been a tough stretch of the schedule. They've had games against UNC, 2 games against Duke. Virginia's already visited Wake Forest. They've been through the meat grinder of the ACC already, and the back half of the schedule lays out a little bit better for them. And then they've also probably left a couple possible wins on the table. They played Virginia Tech really close. They were within just a bucket of UVA late in that game, and then let the Cavs get wide open for a couple of uncontested 3-pointers. And all of a sudden when you get down 7 to UVA late, it's like being down 15 to somebody else late.
Yeah.
So they've been in some games. They've only kind of been handily taken care of twice, and that was by Duke. Heck, they played UNC close to Chapel Hill. So the Deeks are close, but end up kind of blowing it on a handful of plays every game that tend to be, the backbreakers. And they're really just flipping 3 or 4 plays away from turning 2 or 3 of these losses into wins. So they're not your normal, standard, ordinary, 1-6, 1-7 ACC team.
Yeah.
They're a team that are going to keep coming to Louisville and plan on playing the card stuff. And I wouldn't expect anything more than a tight affair Saturday.
Yeah, that's certainly one thing about the ACC is there's, in this league, there are certainly no gimme games, when you look at it, no matter what the opponent's record may be. You mentioned the schedule. Louisville's kind of got the flip side of that. They have yet to hit that gauntlet with those teams that you mentioned, the Virginia, North Carolina, Duke. Those are all still laying ahead for the Cardinals, who have gotten off to a nice start in the ACC play, especially, concerning everything that's surrounding them off the court as well, including, with interim head coach David Padgett. But both teams coming off a loss on Wednesday night. Louisville dropping an unfortunate overtime, kind of lost their way there in overtime down in Coral Gables against Miami. And then, as you mentioned, Wake Forest falling to Duke. Looked like Wake really struggled with, holding on to the ball, 21 turnovers, I think it was, against Duke. That's a problem Louisville's had in a couple games as well. Is that kind of a consistent thing, or is that an anomaly for the Demon Deacons?
Yes, it is. It is both of those. The 21 was a bit of an anomaly, Michael. But the Deeks have been a team that has had a very close number of assists to turnovers all season long. They're a team led by a point guard who desperately misses having a John Collins and a Dinos Mitiglu on the court with them.
Sure.
And they're still adjusting through their losses on the off season. John Collins, of course, went to the NBA, and Dinos Mitiglu, late summer, decided to take a huge contract with the European League team. So, they do turn the ball over. That is an opportunity for the Cards. And many times when they turn the ball over, it leads to live ball, fast breaks. Duke had 34 points off turnovers against Wake this week, which to me is just an astronomical number. But that is not really the norm to where it gets to that extent, but it is a bit of a problem overall for the Deeks.
Louisville and Wake Forest meeting on Saturday at 8 p.m. at the KFC Yum Center. When you look at, the Wake Forest lineup, a couple guys clearly stand out as the guys that are going to be really the focal point that's probably going to attract the most attention from the Louisville defense. Guys like Daryl Moore, Bryant Crawford. Tell me about, some of the standout players for the Demon Deacons so far this year.
Well, you mentioned Daryl Moore, and if there's anything that we know for sure Danny Manning is extremely capable of, but it's a projecting and growing big man. You look at the growth of John Collins going pro after his sophomore season. Daryl Moore has taken that league now from his sophomore year to his junior year. 7'1", an intimidating force in the middle, can block shots. He's tracking to have maybe like a top 5 all-time season in Wake Forest history in block shots. And of course, the top 3 to 4 seasons are all, Tim Duncan. So, he's tracking well in that category. He's becoming more of an offensive presence. The Deeks need to find him more. Wake needs to find him more in the offensive scheme. Bryant Crawford, I had like a little tweet storm about Bryant Crawford yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you probably didn't catch it because I know you probably don't keep up with Wake stuff, generally speaking. But going into the December 23rd game at home against Tennessee, Crawford was a model of consistency. He's a junior guard. He had a second-team All-ACC season last year. He'd scored in double figures for 36 straight games, which was the longest streak in the ACC and the sixth longest in the nation. He's one of the 20 finalists for the Bob Cousy Award, and he was averaging 16 points a game with a decent assist-to-turnover ratio. All of a sudden, since the Tennessee game, he finished with 3 points that game. He's now shooting just like 33% from the field, has basically a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, and is jacking up the ball a lot more. He missed like 12 threes in a row. He's in a funk. He's in like a 9-game funk. For Wake to be good, they need Brian Crawford to be back to the Brian Crawford he was in the previous 36 games. And I don't know what the key is to get him to turn that corner back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, does it look like it's more just a mental thing, or is there an injury bug that he's got?
No, I think at this point it is mental.
Yeah.
You could see it. He's not just missing shots from behind the arc. On pull-ups, and he's less decisive. Something's up in Brian's head. So it's been a strange thing to see. So once they get Brian Crawford back on track, I think the Deeks will be back on track as well. And once again, the schedule's been brutal. So after they get past this easy one on Saturday, all jokes aside.
Yeah. It's a good one to, because obviously, as I mentioned, both teams, coming off a loss. Louisville knows what's ahead of them on the road, so they're going to be looking for a victory. You mentioned you expect a close game. I do as well. Before I let you go, at this point, prediction on the game at all, or what's your thoughts there?
Oh, I think Louisville maybe by 5. Give me 75-70. I think it'll be a close game. I think that the Cards just end up making a couple more plays down the stretch. I think it's a game Wake can win, though. I don't really believe Louisville fans should come to the Yum Center, expecting the Cards to blow out a 1-7 ACC team. Wake is not, your standard average, ordinary 1-7 ACC team. They're a team that's capable, and if they can keep their heads about them through what would likely be a 7-game losing streak, they're going to win a lot of their final 9 in the ACC. I believe they have the capability of winning 5 to 7 of their final 9 and finishing in the range of, maybe, 7-11, 8-10 in the ACC, which would be respectable. But I think Louisville's got a little bit more horses for this one.
I think that's good advice. I think both programs are probably coming into Saturday's game realizing how important it is. Obviously, Wake getting through that meat portion of their schedule, knowing that they need to start racking up some wins, possibly seeing an opportunity here at the Yum Center. And Louisville, knowing what is laying ahead, knows they need to bounce back and get a victory before that meat grinder of their schedule does come up, as Virginia's right around the corner for them. Hey, Les, I appreciate you joining us here in the Cardinal Authority podcast. You have safe travels coming over to Louisville, all right?
Thanks, Michael. Look forward to seeing you Saturday night, buddy.
I appreciate it again. Again, that's Les Johns, publisher of Demon Deacon Digest here on the 247 Sports Network. Want to thank, the guest that stepped into the Cardinal Authority podcast today from Baseball America, Michael Lananna, showing off his wealth of knowledge. I've always enjoyed chatting with him when I've had him on the radio, and I've been a guest host on 790 KRD. Always a great host. Plenty of knowledge about college baseball and what to expect from Dan McDonald's team this year. Also want to thank Les Johns from Demon Deacon Digest, the Wake Forest presence on the 247 Sports Network. Cardinals and Demon Deacons, again, tipping it off at 8 o'clock on Saturday night out at the KFC Yum Center. Should be another great ACC ball game. And again, want to thank all you guys for sticking with us and listening in to about a 30-minute podcast. I think, again, jam-packed with quality information. And keep clicking around CardinalAuthority.com as news continues to eventually come regarding the NCAA appeal process, as news that finally surfaces, as well as continuing coverage on the new assistant coaches hires. We'll have that covered. Recruiting for finishing up 2018 and getting going in 2019. That's going to be covered. And obviously continuing coverage of the ongoing Cardinal basketball season for both the men and women. And as well, baseball, again, less than 4 weeks away. So keep clicking around at CardinalAuthority.com.